Get that going there. And Middle Child, good to see you. And yeah, we're caught up. We are caught up. Great way to... Hi, gorgeous, shiny Ray. What's happening? Thank you for joining us. All right, I got to move this over to... Hey, we hit 8,100 followers on Twitter today. We're at 8,100 right now. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. It's exciting. Exciting times. The lovely and talented Bobby Younce is back. All right, we got like 29 seconds before we're going to get going. Merle is here for Ghosts of the Great White North. And, of course, from the parts of Saskatchewan. Everybody wave over at Matt Ley there. He's in Saskatchewan. It's flat there. He'll be able to see you. Okay? And here we go, everyone. 10 seconds. The Super Chat is open. It's a great way to support this show. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We're going to get going here in 5 seconds. Let's get ready to get the horns up. Rock and roll. Bumblefoot is coming. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. After a month hiatus, Merle has returned to Ghosts of the Great White North. Merle is an accomplished paranormal investigator out of Vancouver, British Columbia. He's investigated all over Western North America, except for California and Mexico. And he's doing a good job at what he's doing, looking for ghosts, chasing down spooky things. He is the Thelma to my Daphne. That is very sure. And, of course, each month on Ghosts of the Great White North, we are joined by a special guest. Tonight, it is Matt Ley from the Mudutu Effect. It's a collaborative effort born from paranormal investigations over 35 years and practice in the occult and metaphysical realm, bringing it all together for a little bit of scientific witchery, shall we call it, into what is going on behind the scenes of the paranormal. Merle, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, but I'll correct you right off the top of the hour. I am Daphne. You're Thelma. I'm Fred. You're Shaggy.
All right, Thelma. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate that.
No, I'm doing good, man. I've been on a big parabender. This past week I did maybe 7 investigations in 4 days. So I got a couple bags under my eyes. Need some tea bags tonight on my eyes. Orange Pico.
I thought you would be more of an Earl Grey guy.
You kind of look like an Earl Grey guy or a ginseng zest.
No.
You look like a ginseng zest guy.
No way. No way. I'm an Earl Grey tea guy or an Orange Pico, one of the two. I don't go into that fancy stuff because then you have to learn an entire different language just to order it at a coffee shop. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to do that. A guy who does know how to speak coffee shop is Matt Ley from the Mudutu Effect. Matt's been on before, and you know what? He loves... seriously, I've heard this through the grapevine. His lovely wife Allison told me he loves a good vanilla ginseng tea. You know, I've never heard of that before, but apparently he does. And, you know, but Matt is a rock star when it comes to trying to blend the science and the paranormal together. Merle, why don't you take us through Matt here?
Matt's a good guy. We just did a show together, and I think... him and I are on the same page a lot with how we investigate our thoughts on the paranormal, and I honestly don't think there's not many people that I really see eye to eye with, and he's one of like the three. Tell us about you, Matt. What are you about? Who are you? Dave loves that question.
Nobody knows the trouble. No, yeah, pretty much so. Paranormal investigator, but I like to dig deep. I'm really huge into data collection, and that's my biggest pet peeve. And there's no bounds or limits to what I'll go through, and the groups that I work with to find that information, to collect that data and then share it and see what everybody else thinks. And it's that's pretty much how it. We got our shop, we make stuff, we're pretty much so dig deep in everything.
Matt, for you, this has been a lifetime of investigation for you. And we should also, as we always like to point out when you were on, you are a military veteran from the United States Air Force, so thank you so much for your service and everything that you have done over time. We really do appreciate that here. And, besides that, I mean, for you having a really long paranormal career, how did it all start for you?
Well, it started when I was young, and as a promising occultist, we'll put it that way. And there was a situation with a house. They thought they had a poltergeist, and they asked that I come in with all the research and everything else that I've done on my own. And it turns out it wasn't a poltergeist. It was actually, the short version of it is that it was actually a little girl manifesting all these things happening. And of course, we all know that fear feeds fear. And so the parents are now scared. They're fueling what's going on. So majority of the solution to it was conversation, and everything died down. So, but that was in 1985, 86, something like that. So that was shut up. No, it's but from there on, between, because I grew up on the Gulf Coast, so UFO sightings were really big around that time, and several other situations with of course, being in the South, you have all the folklores and superstitions, and now I want to find out what's the root of these. And so it's been a nonstop. I took about a good little hiatus while I was in the military, but I was still working with the military on, being a liaison for multiple bases for what we use the term alternate consciousness groups. And I'm not talking about mushrooms. No, I'm talking about people that more heavily into meditation, more heavily into practicing pagan practices, things like that. I was their liaison to the military for those. So I say I took a break, but technically no, I didn't. But it was it was part of the evolution process, I think.
Matt, I'm going to get you to bring your microphone a little bit closer to you, so that way you're a little bit, you got such a soft, beautiful, dulcet tone to you that it's tough for us to hear. So thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So, Matt, for you, as you went down this paranormal road, I mean, did you ever have any concerns or questions about whether or not this was the right thing to do for your life?
No. And I'm a firm believer in anything on the Mudutu Effect page and different things like that. It's all about, you have to define your own path. And, don't let other people tell you that path is wrong. You have to define your own self. And unfortunately, a lot of us get wrapped up into what is socially acceptable. I was guilty of that for a little while. And that bends your point of view.
It really does. And Merle, being a paranormal investigator for yourself, when you hear Matt say how it kind of, bends your view, and you want to make sure you're accurate and everything. How important is it to go down the paranormal road, not only with a skeptical mind, but with your eyes wide open as well?
You always have to be aware, but I'm going to utter something. I'm going to add to what Matt said about the socially acceptable part of the field. I've kind of come into the fruition over the last few months of I just do what I do now, and I'm not worried about what others think, and I found that was a big deal for me. Like, I would investigate a certain way or think I should investigate a certain way to, like, blend in or be a part of things, but I found I'm a lot more happier and more free-feeling doing it how I want to, making my own path, similar to, like, what Matt was just saying.
How important is that, Matt, to carve your own path?
I think it's absolutely imperative, because if you spend all your time, and we've had this conversation, Merle, about how people use TV shows and movies as their format to go out and do investigations rather than thinking for themselves and formulating new theories. This field relies on that. It relies on us to think outside the box, come up with new theories, new ways to test it, and not the same old garbage over and over and over that we've already proven that doesn't work. Off the soapbox. I'm getting off the soapbox.
Bring it out.
Because it's a huge pet peeve of mine. I've sent links to Merle about the some groups here locally that are trying to cash in on the television hype, and it actually makes us all look bad. And they think they're doing it for their own profit, for their own gain, by feeding fear and trying to gain this momentum. We're broadening the research. No, you're inducing the same old adage, the same old fear that's always been around, and you're trying to cash in on it. And now a legitimate paranormal team tries to go to the same location and whatnot, and now they're banned because they've created this bad name. And that right there is one of my biggest pet peeves. People get wrapped up into the old and not looking to the new.
Diluting the credibility. Diluting the credibility is what it is.
I know. I go on my rants.
But Matt, isn't it about investigation and trying to figure out what you're having? Because to me, we were discussing this on the Angry Ghost Hunter a couple of weeks ago with Merle and Ross Allison and Jacob Rice. And one of the things that we kind of brought up, there is a big difference between going out and investigating for a thrill and then investigating for actual concrete proof, trying to actually solve some of these scientific riddles that are out there. The unfortunate part about it is 98% of the paranormal investigators out there cannot draw a difference between the two. Mm-hmm. And, like, for instance, I can say with me, if I go out, I'm a thrill seeker. I want that little bump in the night, that little voice, or a K2 meter to go off, or a ghost box to go off. I want things, rolling around on the floor. That to me is the thrill, because I don't need proof of anything. Would I like to know if there is life after death? Oh, hell yeah, I would. Because I'm not a one-and-done kind of guy. I just don't buy it. Freaks me out, too. Okay, but on the flip side, the majority of paranormal investigators out there have no clue what they're even trying to solve, let alone trying to figure out anything scientific. So what is the difference for our audience, especially our terrestrial radio audience who may not understand, the difference between paranormal thrill-seeking and paranormal investigation?
Well, like in my book, I mentioned that there's paranormal investigators, and then there's enthusiasts. There's those two classifications of people that are going out. Now, investigators can actually be broken up as well, but there's the ones that want to investigate based on their biased point of view. Let's say, for example, you're looking for if you're extremely religious and you're chasing after demons, I'm sure you're going to find them because you're going to manifest that. Then you've got the investigators that are going in unbiased point of view, because you said a key word in there. They don't know what they're looking for, but they're looking for information. They're going in with a completely unbiased point of view. They're not making a predetermined judgment that it's ghosts, it's demons, it's all this other crap. They're going in just looking for raw data, and based on that raw data, they can come up with some type of theory, not a conclusion. So, and then they can build on that going forward.
Okay, but go into detail, Matt, if you don't mind, on the difference between paranormal fun and true research.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, paranormal fun I'm sure there's different groups out there, but most of the groups that I've seen are the ones that break into buildings and, want to run around and, trespass and things like that. Yeah, when I was younger, that was fun. Now I wouldn't even make it over a fence. But
I'm not going upstairs, my friend. If there's stairs in a building, you go investigate. I'll wait down here.
A 3-foot fence now, and I'm like, oh God, I'm going to pull something.
Yeah. You have to hear me cry just getting up out of a chair. I have to turn off all the EVP recorders because everybody's going to think something's screaming in the background.
Yeah.
But, yeah, for the paranormal fun, I'm not bashing it. I'm just saying that because, we've all done it, basically. If you're an investigator, at some point in time, you did it for that thrill. And then you got hooked in with the whys. Really, as much as I want to say, stop doing this, you're hurting our field, I'm just as guilty of it. So, but for fun, to go to a location, to go with it, even go with a legitimate team. That's what I would recommend. If you're looking for it to go for just for fun, go with a legitimate team, because they could probably use your help, changing out the batteries, stuff like that. And then you could say, hey, we got a lot of hits in this area. Let's go lock them in that room while we go look elsewhere.
Okay, Merle. Merle, go ahead.
I was going to say, between the fun and the researchers, like you said, Dave, you're a thrill seeker. And when you get the blip on the K2 or you hear that noise, growl, or whatever, that could be spooky, I think this is where the difference happens. You're going to jump up and down and freak out, laugh, like you're in a scary movie theater, like watching a scary movie. Or you're going to put your research hat. The second that happens, you just look at all of your gear and you start noting and documenting everything. You kind of hold the line, so to speak, to see that evidence playing out, to see what happens. And then you make your decision from there if you're going to continue asking, if you're doing an EVP session, for example, if you're going to ask the same sort of questions, if you're going to spice those questions up a little bbit to see if you get a little more reaction. I think that's where the difference is when you're on an actual investigation.
True. But Mike, if I could, somebody has their speaker up too high. Getting a lot of feedback, guys.
Mine's down. I think that.
All right. So, just in regards to Mike's question there, for me, being in this field as long as I have, being in enough haunted locations like I have, and I hate to use this term because I don't like to mention it, but having a sense of intuition, I'm there for me. I'm not there for anybody else but me. I don't need answers because I've already got the answers. And if I want to go chase something, I'm doing it for my own selfish benefit. That's why I'm there. I'm not there to solve these major mysteries and riddles of life after death, or solve murder cases, or solve anything else beside that. I can admit that. I really can. But for others, where they have the paranormal team with the skeptic on the website giving one of these, and they have their team organizer. This is why we don't do a lot of paranormal shows here, guys, with paranormal teams, because there's a couple questions they can't answer. Number one, as I've said to my audience before, and if you're new here, you'll hear it for the first time. Number one, any paranormal team that mentions the word science, all right, 9.5 times out of 10, you could throw that team in the garbage because they're not conducting anything scientific. Number two, when you ask these teams, what do you do with your evidence? After they say, well, we collect it and we put it in a database, well, what do you do with it afterwards? The answer usually is, what do you mean? And that's not good enough if you are conducting science in the field. Those pieces of evidence that you have, audio, video, photographic, they need to lead to something. That's what science is about. It's not about storing it. So for me, I'm not a scientific guy. Never had. I like the thrill. I like the thrill of going out there and, you know, Mike, when we're in the forest getting chased by Bigfoot with Little Marky Spender, I like that feeling. That's the feeling I'm going for, is that little bit of hair standing up on the back of your head, right? And I think with the paranormal field, as many brilliant people as there are in the field, and Matt, I'll throw it to you right after this, as we got about 3 minutes left, we're not using the proper people and the proper brain power in proper ways in order to solve the mysteries. It isn't going to come from an SLS camera or some piece of gear. It's going to come from the brain, the intuition, and the science all brought together as one.
Absolutely. And it's funny you should mention that because, yes, I store information, but then I'll find another piece that I'll go back and pull that information out. And then, you know, Michael can attest to this. I'll send him, you know, some video clip saying, what do you think of this? What's your opinion of this? Because this is a scenario. This is what was happening. I, in the past, dismissed it because I thought it was, well, bogus. And now, because a new theory has developed, I have to pull that information out and now rethink everything that I've looked at in the past to come up with a new concept and how a new way of testing it. That, to me, is a process that should be repeated over and over and over until we get more finite, better tuned in to what we're looking for and how to communicate better.
Merle.
I agree with what Matt's saying. I think sharing evidence, everything we have in our little casebook and all of our stuff that we have stored on our millions of external hard drives should be shared, should be cross-referenced with other teams, other types of research ways and all that stuff. I believe more of that will lead to more of discovering what we're looking for.
But ego will not allow that to happen. That's the problem.
You are correct.
We are more interested in trying to declare areas non-investigatable by other teams. We're more interested in burning other teams. We're more interested in destroying places, like painting over weird things in museums when we don't have permission, and destroying credibility of everything. I mean, the paranormal, as much of a mess as it is, and we could sit here and gouge the paranormal all night long, it's not going to be anything constructive. But, I mean, heading into the second half hour here of the show, you know, we got to get into what questions are we trying to solve here, gentlemen? I mean, that's the big one. What questions are we trying to solve? And the sad part about it is the majority of paranormal investigators out there cannot answer that question. What are you trying to solve? And that is the biggest frustration that I have in this entire field. And I get a lot of people, guys, who will ask me, well, why don't you do more paranormal shows? Why? Because they piss me off. and that is the God's honest truth. I get really, really pissed off when somebody tries to use the word science, or if they're intuition or intuitive, they refuse to use their intuition because it goes against scientific rule. Oh, throw your science hat in the garbage. You know nothing about it. Merle is here. Voice of the Great White North. Matt Ley, the Mudutu Effect, out of Saskatchewan. Everybody stand up and wave. Matt will be able to see you. You'll be able to see him. So flat over there. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is up right after this. You know, I hate to sound like I'm on some kind of friggin' high horse with that, but honestly, it just pisses me off. It pisses me off. You know?
Well, and the other part of that is you ask each team, and everybody has a different point of view of why they're doing it. I mean, I can tell you why I'm doing it, but at the end of the day, everybody has their different goals and different mindsets. But when we come back, I want to touch on the fun part, how it actually is a benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Having a group of people with you that are there for that rush, because that's an energy release that changes the dynamics.
Absolutely.
And I have a great para-unity story for you, Dave. It's going to blow your little melon.
Yeah, you know I love para-unity.
That's a pet peeve of mine. Sorry.
Why are you stunned, Katie, in the chat room? Why are you stunned? Curious. Mm-hmm.
Who's stunned? What happened?
No, Dave's not mad, Mennonite Abe. Dave's not mad. It just pisses me off. Because there's so many phonies in the field. And there's such incredible stories to tell. And we can't get to those stories because somebody wants to play resident skeptic on the team. Or somebody wants to play scientist. And do sweet fuck all with it. I mean...
Or the latest one here locally is... profit dearly off of scaring the crap out of people through exorcisms and whatnot. You told me
about that. I'll be right back.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you are stunning, Katie. Magic Maiden, how are you? Good to see you. Exactly, Minister Elaine. We should be wanting to know the who, what, where, when, why, and why me. Exactly. Mark Fountain. Mark Fountain's here, everyone. Mennonite Abe, I don't mind a scientist on the team either, but I hope they're a real scientist and not just playing one like Doogie Howser. You know? That's the problem. Jeremy Jones, what's happening?
Oh, and to reply to Jim earlier, I actually quit the paranormal teams. I'm focusing strictly on research and data collection from paranormal teams. So I am no longer a member of a paranormal team. So.
And with a beard like that, you don't need one. Where's your wizard's hat?
I've got one somewhere.
I know you do. I gotta change Merle's name again because every half hour I change his name. Hold on. Carla says, Merle.
Merle. Merle.
Katie says, I'm not real familiar with Matt. Incredible beard, his beard, your hair. You both look terrific, Spaced Out Radio. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
It's a strong beard.
I have the face for radio.
So do I, my friend. Radio Head, how are you? All right. We got about 1 minute here, guys. 1 minute. Thank you to Snakes, to Ozzy Ange and to Ed Clater for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Thank you so much. If you're new here, we are a live radio show, not a podcast, which is why we take breaks at the top and bottom of the hour. And, so that's what we're doing here. We're just on a break to line up with our radio stations. And from there, we're going to start the second half hour. So thank you so much for checking us on out tonight. The lovely and talented Jennifer P. has arrived. Yes, she understands my frustration. Yes, she does. Here we go, everyone. We're going to get going in 5 seconds. Hi, little Marquis Spender. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with Ghosts of the Great White North. Merle is here from the Paranormal Road Trippers based out of Vancouver, British Columbia. And joining us from the flat province of Saskatchewan, where literally you could say flat earth is there every day, every night. We have from the Mudutu Effect, Matt Ley. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Thanks, Dave.
Appreciate it.
Now, Matt, you wanted to kind of continue on with the paranormal teams.
Right. We were talking about people want to go out for fun, just for that thrill seeking. And we were talking about this earlier. And when people get scared, I mean, like petrified scared, they actually change the dynamics of the room, the energy of the room. But when people are there for fun, they want that thrill. It has the same effect. And when it happens, sometimes you can use that to your advantage. So if you send a group of people into a room, say, here's your equipment, whatnot, we'll be out here monitoring and this is not a speculation. This is something that's been proven time and time again. So you send them into the room, the whole dynamics of the room changes. You know, it's kind of like when you go into a room, you know, that one person is angry in the room and, you know, like at the party, everybody can pick up off of it. Everybody, you know, it does feed that whole atmosphere. Well, it's the same concept. You go into this room after this team has gone in and they're like, ooh, I don't know if that was a pop click or, you know, my buddy Joe just farted, you know, they don't know, but that whole energy just changed in the room. Now you can go in because they technically fueled the atmosphere with kind of a positive environment. Now, with someone being scared, it's like I've been startled before. I immediately removed myself out of the room because I didn't want to change the dynamics of the room. Because if I am scared or shaken up or anything like that, I can actually, fear feeds fear. It becomes an infectious disease in a room. And now everybody's seeing something that's not there. And yeah, emotions trigger energy changes in the room. And when you have people wanting to come in for fun, it's not on every case I would recommend it, but it could actually benefit the team.
I think so too. You know, but shouldn't every team, though, have almost a logbook on what they are trying to accomplish?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So if they do, Matt, what are we looking for? Let's get right to the bones here. What are we supposed to be looking for with this? Is it life after death? Is it wondering where these spirits are, who they are? Are they manifesting into people that we know, but in fact there's something completely different? What is going on? What should we be looking for?
I personally believe that all the different teams are looking for something different. We have a common thread, the communication piece, wanting to understand. But every one of us have a different background. And because of that, it changes the dynamics of what we're looking for. Now, am I saying that we don't all own a piece of the puzzle? No, that's exactly what we do. We all own a piece of the puzzle. What the actual completed picture looks like, it's like me and Merle, we got the corner pieces. But what the complete picture looks like, it may actually shock us one day when we actually get the pieces on the board. But like mine is more, I take centuries old research from occultists, alchemists, different practitioners over the centuries. They've always talked about the same things embedded in their writings. And that's what we pull out of those writings to bring forward into modern day theories. And our theories are constantly, well, I'm no longer part of any paranormal team, so the hour is, mine and the Mudutu Effect's theories are constantly changing. The last testing that we did, we focused strictly on frequencies, nothing else. Strictly on frequencies. And we're able to identify that 14 hertz and 41 hertz were the most common frequencies.
What does that mean, though?
That's where you have to formulate a new one. Okay, does 41 hertz relate to the delta range of the brain? Does 41 hertz... All right, you're a musician. I was going to go... I have to hit to the bass guitar. All these different... you have all these different aspects that you have to wonder about. You can't just say, okay, it's 41 hertz, I'm done, and walk away. Now you have to really dig in deep, because the 17 hertz going up to 41 hertz and capping and then going back down, that suggests, not stating it is, suggests it's a possibility that it's delta waves in the brain. So is this true? Is this the carrier frequency that we need to be using on communication? I have no idea. I'm just stating that what we found. That's where... Does the research stop there? No. We're continuing that research in that field. But you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over. You have to find better ways to fine-tune it. Because if you're doing the same thing over and over and over, if we would literally be... The only piece of equipment we would have is a K2 right now. We have to come up with ideas, test them, and then, okay, after 30 or 40 tests, nothing. I didn't get anything out of this. That was a fluke. I'm going to keep going and build off of it. But when you are coming up with these different tests, and like my most recent one, I've dismissed it for years, made fun of it publicly. It's even in my book that I made fun of it. And then I found out I have to eat my own words, because dust particles were actually something that we could have been using as a tool for years, because dust is statically charged. You know how I feel about... Everybody knows how I feel about orbs showing up in pictures. Keep your finger on the censor button. But when removing that out of the equation and looking at dust as a collective, yeah, you had a natural resource tool, because dust is naturally charged particles, especially if it comes from incense or anything like that, and either it's going to repel or attract to an object that is proposed as energy. So yes, for years I threw that out. Now I'm eating my own words after a recent experiment, and I discovered I was able to measure the static field. And then it dawned on me that all these dust particles in the room were a tool that was sitting in front of me for years, and I did not once think about it.
Merle.
I'm trying something a little differently than Matt, and it really worked this past weekend on my investigations. I'm trying I have an atmospheric device. So it's called an EDI Plus. It monitors your temperature, your vibrations, your EMF, all that sort of fun stuff around you. And one thing that I'm noticing, I know a lot of people notice this too, is your temperature fluctuates. It usually goes down before paranormal activity happens, or there's contact made with a spirit. And I've noticed, and I will keep my EDI, because the EDI Plus has a little gauge on it that shows you the temperature, the numbers. And when I'm investigating with this past weekend, I had 2 investigators that I've never ever investigated before, which made a wicked trigger object, like we were talking about earlier, about the energy of new people or really scared people during an investigation. I find I want to know why the temperature fluctuates and why it goes cold. I want to know what makes that happen. People say that ghosts give off the sense of being cold, which we all know. That's like ghost hunting 101 if the temperature changes, but why does it? And I'd say 7 out of 10 times it fluctuated by 2 degrees. We got a hit on it could be an EVP, it could be someone getting touched, it could be hearing a knock, but something in the atmosphere would change. So I'm really wanting to know why that is happening. Like when we investigated a brothel this past weekend, and it was 4 of us. And 2 of the 4 of us have never, like I said, never been on an investigation. So I had my little station set up where I was monitoring the 3 girls. It was me and 3 girls in a brothel. So go figure. And the 2 new investigators, or ride-along investigators, they were crap scared of doing this because of all of the stories they've heard in this brothel about the madam that used to live there and all that sort of stuff. And it's all documented. And I was calling the madam by her name, asking her to have a conversation with me, talk about the old days, the 1800s. And I said to them, and I had the permission of the girls to say this, I'm like, I have 3 girls here, and what do you think of them? To them. Then all of a sudden I'm looking at my gear, and the temperature goes down to 2-3 degrees, and I'm like, here we go. But I'm just keeping my cards to myself at this time. And then all of a sudden one of the girls was like, oh my effing God, something just stroked my face. And then the other girl said, oh my God, that's happening to me too. That was within a second of the temperature changing. And then in my head, I want to know why. So I note this and log this down for my research records. What do you think? Why does that happen?
So I'm going to back up to, actually Allison's theory, my wife. We focus too much on EMF in the field, way too much. And she started asking the question, why is it every time a paranormal event happens, there's this drain in batteries or, things like that. And then she realized, well, batteries are DC. Why aren't we focusing on EMF, which is an AC generated product, other than natural magnetic fields? And so she started to work with others, and they came up with this little device. And then I had to turn all Tim on it and create a bigger one. And I think mine was 1.2 million volts DC. And we found that once you create that energy field, that can simulate a natural energy field, you got more responses. Now, to go back to what you were saying with the temperature dropping, that's energy being removed from the area. So you would hypothetically, because I've never actually physically measured that, but that would be an interesting test, is to measure the static field. You can get one of the small ion detectors. Just get a small one because of close proximity. So if you feel the temperature going down in an area, that would give you some type of validation versus the energy in the air is disappearing, so therefore the temperature is dropping. You would be able to actually measure the static field dropping. So, or whether or not it's going from a positive to a negative. These are all factors that play a part in it. And that's the validation process. And I've always been one of those type people that sat in the back room saying it was the energy dropping in the area. And then somebody posed the question, how do you know?
I agree. And like in the chat room, Bama BF says we need to look into the energy effect of temperature. 100% agree.
Oh, absolutely. Because we've always, in the occult area and the alchemy and everything else, it's been documented for centuries. But we don't have any data to go by. If we knew whether or not maybe it's not a drop, maybe it's a reverse of polarity that's causing it, or things like that, then now you know how to approach an area, or how maybe you could trigger that to create the same effect. The better communication. It's the same concept as that 1441 hertz. I don't know what triggers it, but now I'm seeing a common denominator. So now I want to find, actually I have a guy. I know a guy around the corner. And anyway, he's actually making me a low frequency oscillator so that we can test the result of that. Maybe a waste of time, but we need to test it.
How do you test it when you don't know what you're looking for?
Well, we already have a control, after multiple tests. Excuse me. And we know the conditions that we utilize to create that field, and we also know, when I say to recreate that test, we do it at the same time every time, because times of days and all this documentation that I'm talking about and these old manuscripts, they played a huge part. So we don't want to vary outside of the time of day, whatnot. So we take that information, we recreate it exactly. But we use this oscillator that his name's Matt also. I'm not talking about me. I should just say used a reference of ditto. And he's making this oscillator. So now we create that to see if now we're ending up with a carrier frequency. Because when we're doing this, we're also running a full spectrum analyzer. So we can identify whether or not it's towers or if it's, anything along these lines that are interfering. Because any frequency creates a harmonic frequency, which would actually appear as small blips on each side of the frequency carriers. And they can actually ride all the way down the spectrum analyzer. So with that being said, we need to make sure that we're the ones creating this. Now, if we find out nothing happens, does that mean we stop? No, it just means we put it aside for right now until we find the other piece of the puzzle that we can pull that back in. It's not I've debunked some of my own theories and then find out later on I need to pull that back out of the file because there was a small piece of that one theory that I could utilize.
So in terms of trying to figure out this frequency of 1441, are you saying that is the spirit or the frequency that they are communicating on?
Well, we've got three different theories. One, which was mine, because it matched up to the delta waves of the brain. Once people get together, they tend to sync up. Are we actually emitting that? That's the question. Are we the ones actually using that? Or the other theory was that was the frequency it was being emitted for us to pick up on. And then the last one was environmental. It was the oddball theory that throws everything out, that it's even paranormal, is that this is something that's actually being generated because we're all together in the room and this frequency has been generated. It has nothing to do with paranormal. But we have to look at all those aspects. We can't say, oh, you're ridiculous. We can't, No, you have to accept any that come our way.
Damn, that's a little more time consuming than a phone app, eh?
Yeah.
I love that, though. I love that you're exploring all those theories. But that's what progresses our field, in my opinion. outside of the box methods and trying to figure out all the different wavelengths of beyond of what we already know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I call it the check engine light. We've gotten so caught up in looking for the check engine light because we're not getting any information. We're just, oh, look, it's blinking. Now the two guys, they're actually teachers at a local college here, and that's one of the things they teach is data collection, how to program and whatnot. So that's all they want to do is build devices for data collection. And then, like, I'm going to use their own words. You figure it out. We just want to make the devices. So I'm so glad they're on board. But it's like you said. We have to come up with. We have to get away from the yay it lit up, because we can very easily manipulate our environment. So then we come up to the concept that are we manipulating the equipment? It's electronic. It's they use crystal timings in them. There's harmonic frequencies involved, and to quote Jeff, that is correct. Stating about how Buddhist monks train to achieve in deeper meditation. That these things affect your environment, your immediate universe, to say. So if you're holding, and I've actually witnessed this, an SB11. I've said this story a million times. An SB11 is being held by he's an experienced paranormal investigator, but he finally got this new toy. And he's literally got it on the floor, and he's excited, and he says over and over and over, say my name. Don't go there, Dave. And so he literally says that over and over and over. And sure enough, he hears his name come over the SB11, but it was in his own voice. So is he projecting this, or is it actually paranormal? I've seen it where people so focused on the yes-no thing with the K2, they wanted that yes so bad because they're filming, that the yes one would keep lighting up. But no other paranormal activity was happening in that room. The focus of will does, I believe, personally, my opinion, affect our equipment.
Why do you think that he was able to do that? Get his name?
Well, he was talking nice to it.
Fair enough.
No, I think in all those documents for them centuries, it always talk about projected will and the focus of energy, and how we can manipulate things. It's in several different paths, and it's, of course, it's worded completely off the map and off the grid, all over the place. But focusing on these type of things, focusing your name and that much energy and excitement because you got the new toy. Like once again, changing the dynamics of the room. Mm-hmm. The wine of choice is Merle. I just saw that. Sorry.
Merlot. Merlot.
I squirreled for a second there. I saw it down there. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I keep checking it every 15 minutes. He usually changes it.
Every half an hour.
But it's funny you mention like the data logging and all of that, because I'll be straight. When I first started into paranormal investigating, it was all about the ovuluses, the talker twos, and all of the cool gizmos. But I've been doing it for long enough now where all I want to give me a data logger, a camera, and a voice recorder. I'm good to go. I don't need anything else.
All right, guys, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Ghosts of the Great White North. Merle is here, everyone. Say it with me. Merle. Favorite wine is a Merlot. And, of course, he loves hunting his ghosts as well with Paranormal Road Trippers based out of Vancouver, British Columbia. Joining us from the Mudutu Effect, Matt Ley, out of the beautiful province of Saskatchewan. We'll continue with Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this. All right, you guys chat away with the audience. We've got to run the dogs out. I'll be right back, okay?
Sounds good.
Katie says,
Matt,
Merle.
Matt, I'll be right back. I got to go make sure my daughter and her friend aren't watching anything too scary.
I haven't heard any screams in the background. I don't want to step off screen, because everybody else left the party. People. I do want to get caught up on some of these because I'm fascinated with some of these. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
They've stopped watching their movies.
They stopped? Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
They're scared.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to bang on the walls?
I'm going to put a haunted doll in there and they least expect it.
Oh, nice. There you go.
I'm going to put it on a little TV in there for when they wake up tomorrow. It'll be right there. It's already planned out.
Oh, yeah.
What do you want to take in next half hour?
Jim, we're still in the big building that we got in Milestone. So.
Where do you want to go next half hour, Matt?
Hold on a second. I was going to reply. Jenny, yes. Yes, I do. We have a little shop here at the building and have now I'm making stick incense now. So yes, we have incense. But I have loose too. So. But yeah, we have a full blown store here of varied objects for all walks of life.
Your store looks awesome.
Thanks. I still want you to come around. Maybe we're get you to. Well, I am going to get you to do the investigation, but I kind of want you to investigate that one that I was telling you, that my nightly experiment every night. So it's haven't broke the pattern every single night. Well, now it's going on 7 months, I think it is.
Wow.
Just all right now, it's nothing but collecting data, any anomalies, not making any type of conclusions or anything, just getting the information together so I can compile it and then push it out and see what we come up with. So, but of course, it's hard not to come up with theories. So,
I found it really interesting this past weekend with the whole temperature fluctuation, with people getting, like, 2 of the investigators actually got touched on their face. They said it felt like a little like that. And it was they basically almost said it at the same time. So it wasn't like one person feeding off the other. It was just really neat to watch with the whole atmosphere change and then that happening. I just want to know why. Why does that happen?
That's the key point. Not enough teams ask why. They're regurgitating what they saw on another TV show, and it's so annoying. I'll be right back.
Sure. No boy, I'm all alone in here now. Where does everybody want to see the next half hour go? What should we grill Matt on? I'm down for almost anything.
I can hear you.
All right.
Oh,
Hey, Merle.
damn it, he can hear me. What's up, little Dave?
Not much. How you doing?
Doing great. I was just talking to Matt about how I think it was really neat on that investigation where I would watch the temperature fluctuate. And then the two investigators, that's almost at the exact same time, they felt something go like that on the side of their face. It was just,
that was cool.
Blew my mind to actually watch the whole play out. How the fires up there?
Oh, the one is big. The one is really big. They may evacuate 100 Mile within the next few days if it keeps encroaching.
At least they did. They have firefighters coming from all over Canada and the world now.
Yeah, about time. We got some really good firefighters coming up from Mexico, too.
I saw that.
Which is cool. All right, quick homework here before we come back. I just want to make an official announcement that Michael W. Hall has asked to walk away from Sunday night's show. He's really busy with a lot of other projects, and he apologizes. Thanks all the Spaced Out Radio listeners on Sundays. So the new Sunday host will be Lynn Wallington, as she will take over the entire weekends for the show. Congratulations, Lynn, and thank you, Michael, for an amazing job that you did over the time. Here we go with hour 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hysternopathia. Hysternopathia is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Ghosts of the Great White North. Merle is here from Paranormal Road Trippers out of Vancouver, British Columbia. He joins me every month to talk a little paranormal on this show. And we have Matt Ley from the Mudutu Effect. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave. Dave, I think Jeff Gear has you beaten for your Merleisms. Come to the carnival and ride the Whirl of Merle. That takes the cake right there.
That's nice.
That made me laugh out loud.
Very nice. Very nice. Remember, our radio people can't hear that or see that.
Damn it. All right.
Yeah. So anyways, let's talk about some paranormal. Matt, out of all the cases that you have investigated over time, is there one that really sticks with you that you just scratch your head over?
Well, I'm going to use paranormal as a blanket term, not just focusing on ghosts. Yes, there's one that's been ongoing now for, we were just talking all fair about, right now it started off as an experiment, and now I'm on my, excuse me, 7th month of every single night, because I have no earthly idea. I'm scratching my head, and I have a million theories, so I think at this point it's more of a case of collecting data, and let's see what we end up with at the end game. What that end game is, I really don't know yet. I mean, I could be doing this same identical investigation every single night for the next, well, I'm old, so I don't want to put a date on it. But the thing is that when you run into these type of situations like this one, and I'll elaborate. It when going through all those old documentations and whatnot, I noticed that there was a trend, a comment that kept driving me more and more to dig deeper. Between reading books from old Icelandic texts to the books of Zohar, oh my gosh, there was so many different ones. Egyptian texts. You start seeing this common denominator, and so it doesn't really sound paranormal, but yes, it is, because it raises the question of not. A lot of people ask what happens after death, what's life after death, but raises the questions of the origins. And so, based on the data that we already had, I wanted to do an experiment every single night, and see if I could tap in. It's more of a consciousness research, and the more information that I come up with, it raises even more questions. And this one, I cannot tell you when the research will stop. Now, on an actual investigation, there's been quite a few, but there's I'm going to lean more toward. I'm going to pick on the Ninat Sanatorium, and I tried everything in my power to debunk this, because usually when glass is involved, because no glass is flat, regardless of what you may think. There's imperfections in it and everything else, and you can also have pareidolia, and that's the case where you think you see a face in it and everything else along those lines. But in this case, my rover that I made caught pictures of something looking at me from a window. And so the next day I went out there with the FLIR, and I tried to measure differences on the glass and tried to recreate the angles. And then at the same night, no matter what I did, I could not recreate it. All I could tell you is that there was something looking at me, and it was not a case of pareidolia. Because no matter what I did with the imperfection, I found the imperfection. So I'm going, okay, now all I got to do is get the right angle with the IR light, and I can recreate that same image, but I couldn't do it. I even took in consideration temperature variations, because it was at nighttime, of course. It's cooler, but the next night the temperature was actually pretty close. It was only off by 2 degrees. So all these different factors. What it was looking at me, no idea. I was too far away for it to be my reflection, because I was at the other end of the hall. Once again, I sent a rover down there to take a look at everything. So that one still lingers in the back of my head, because like Merle, I'm always asking why. Why did that show up? Because that was, let's figure, there's 8 rooms on one side. So you figure that's a good distance down a hallway before it comes to that door at the end.
Have you ever battled, Matt, a spirit, demon, ghost, whatever you want to call it, to the point where it was just a stalemate?
I've never battled anything or anyone, except when I was deployed. But unfortunately, there are those that want to tell you that everything is a demon. Everything is a demon. And we've had this conversation before, where when I go into a location, I always burn incense pertaining to that area as an offering to say, hey, thank you for allowing me to be in your space. And after that, I've never, ever actually had an aggressive, even when it was reported as aggressive before. I've never had that situation where I've had to deal with an aggressive force. It's just like us sitting here talking with each other. If I'm busy shouting at you and whatnot, you're going to become more and more agitated and more aggressive. And why would I want to create an environment like that when I am going in to maintain communication? So I would honestly say in all my years, I have never had an aggressive demonic, because number one, if you're looking for something demonic, you are probably going to create it, just out of your own actions and from your own fears, your own manifestations, those type of things. That's what I meant by earlier when I stated the biased point of view. If you're going in being biased in your research, I'm using that term loosely in that environment. Because if you're going into an investigation and you are going in completely biased, whether it must be a demon here because they reported aggressive actions. Now you've already made up your mind. You're not an investigator at that point. You're going in looking for something to manifest, which you are probably going to create.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question for you, Matt. I tend to. I've never seen a demon either, or any. I've never been involved in any exorcisms that I know of. I'm yet to experience that or deal with any sort of overly negative spirit. But what I have experienced in my time are spirits that maybe it's my energy I push off, but I get attachments often, and I do seem to get the more cranky spirits coming at me or letting them know that they're there. In your opinion, why does that happen to people?
I don't know. It could be, the cologne you're wearing. I don't know.
They hate Axe.
Yeah. That explains it all. No, no. I think that everybody emits a frequency and energy, and when you go into an environment, have you ever just not said nothing to anybody, and they just look at you like you just cussed them out, just because you're there? It's the same concept. And because these entities, if it is an entity, because I'm a firm believer in multidimensional and several other aspects, but if you go into a situation, yes, well, you're very... Merle, I'm going to be nice. I'm going to try to come up with the right term for this. You're very direct.
Yes.
Okay, so, and you're very direct and analytical, even in your statements. So, some people, like if you're in the grocery store and you walk up to somebody in the same fashion, may actually see that as an aggressive, or you're rubbing them the wrong way. So, with that being said, that's the way I would view it. It's a case of maybe I don't need to say anything, or send someone else in, kind of do the introduction. I'm bringing Merle in. He's actually a really nice guy, blah, 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 and then bring you in. Create that energy atmosphere first. And if you go in first, you're creating it, and now, So
I think that makes a lot of sense to me, because like with my day job, I have to be extremely direct and I wouldn't say aggressive, but just very direct. It's my way. And I think from doing my job for 18 years, it's the only way I know how to talk. I get in trouble with my other half. I get in trouble with my family. I get in trouble with how I talk. So that what you just said to me kind of unlocked something in my head. Maybe that's how I portray myself in our investigations too.
It's tough being a mall cop.
Not a mall cop. You're a mall cop. I look like a mall cop.
So what's this that you've got here, Dave? Am I your twin with a better beard?
Apparently, according to FAP in our chat room, you are my twin, but you have a much better beard than I do. So we appreciate that. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. What is a ghost?
Well, I'm gonna quote in the chat room. Ghosts are normal, and that is probably a good statement. The paranormal part of it comes into wanting to communicate with them, and that's what we want to do, is to communicate across the veils. And a ghost is an apparition, a spirit. It could be either a deceased loved one or someone you don't even know or whatever. But unfortunately, paranormal in a grouping gets focused on ghost. So it's not always a ghost. It could be just an anomaly that you can identify as that. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that want to label everything as a ghost, and it's not always the case. For example, we pick up an anomaly here in the building. It's a figure standing there. Is that a ghost? But we also measure time distortions. Now, our perception of this, our theories start changing. Is this actually multidimensional? We have to look at all the factors. Also, there's that other factor. Everybody goes in right away and says, how many people have died at this location? It's not always that. Sometimes a ghost, a spirit, wants to attach itself to the last favorable memory. So let's say this building that we're in was formerly a bank. Well, it could have been an old bank manager that finally passed away. Instead of wanting to be attached to the beach, he wants to go back to where he used to work. Our customer that used to love getting declined by loans. I don't know. It's throwing it out there. It's because the common theory, and this is also my opinion as well, and we all know what opinions, is that once we're in a spirit form, we have free will. That's why I get so mad at these people that say, I'm going to move them on. I found a ghost and I need to move them on to the light. I need to move,
Move them to that light, Matt.
Yeah. Yeah. That's to me an assertion of dominance. I don't walk in and tell you to get out of your house. It's, yeah, when these people start doing all this, draws me absolutely nuts. So to answer your question, ghosts, by definition, is an apparition or a spirit of someone that's passed on, type, concept. Doesn't matter if it looks just like them when they passed away or not. But unfortunately, to add to that, ghosts, the term ghost, gets labeled for a lot of different things. And I really think that's unfortunate.
Back to your bank manager analogy, do you think a residual haunting is the same thing as a ghost, or do you view a residual haunting as an energy imprint?
I'm kind of torn, to be honest with you. I think the circumstances would have to change. An energy imprint basically is like a movie put on loop, with no consciousness, nothing. You're seeing that video playing over and over and over. And whereas on the other end of the spectrum, it could be the spirit reenacting that situation over and over and over, thinking that they're still in that, like the bank manager concept. You see him come in, he checks in, he unlocks, he goes upstairs, blah, 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 blah. Whereas on the, and the reason I say there's a variation, because in the 80s, they were looking at, the makeup of the paint. They were looking at different things like that. Could this act almost like the magnetic tape on a cassette and recreate, that activity going on, but more of a replay of a video. So that's why sometimes as you're doing renovations, sometimes you get that, activity being stirred up or whatnot. We had it here when we remodeled the building. but it was more of a playback, not a residual haunt. So, because once you got it completely done, it was, done and over. It seemed like the more that we did actual things to the location, we got the playback scenario. So I believe that's a twofold answer.
Fair enough. Now, when you're talking about when you were renovating your place and your haunt spiked up there, why do you think that happens?
I'll be honest with you, I have no idea. I know we didn't actually suspect anything was here, but we had too many reports from the people that were working here in the building, and like the lady doing the floors, she would hear somebody walking down the hallway, or Allison might be in the kitchen working on things, and she hears a couple of guys in the back room, when in fact she's the only person on the floor. Now those type of things I would attribute to residual playbacks because of the locations and things like that. Once again, I'd have no idea if I'm 100% correct on that or not. It's just, a point of view. However, recently, with the experimenting that we've been doing here in the building, because the building has a natural high magnetic field in the center of it, and we use tri-field to test that. And it's not uncommon to hear footsteps back and forth, like to the point to where you have to sit there and get up and walk around and look for whatever's causing it. It's so distinct, the shuffling of the feet and whatnot. We've had most people come here to the building and feel that energy in the center, the magnetic field, and then immediately say, it was like a very well-trusted medium, because I had to throw that out there because we know that a lot of them are carnies, and I have no shame in saying that. And but she came here and I was like, do you sense people or anything? And she's like, no, I just pick up energy. That's, so, which goes back to the whole multidimensional thing that I was talking about earlier, because when we did that test, we actually picked up time distortions. So, once again, theories.
All about the theories.
John is asking in the chat room, as we got 2 minutes left, have you ever read Dr. Newton's books? And if so, how do you explain or have an opinion of his explanation of ghosts?
John, I have not read Dr. Newton's books. I know that there is one in the library, so I am guilty as charged. We actually have a library here for people to come in and just sit down. I do know there's a book up there, but I have not read it, which is shameful to say that it's sitting on the shelf and I have not read it. So now I'm going to have to go upstairs and take a look. So
shame.
I know.
Called out.
I know. It's spanked.
With 1 minute to go, I mean, John has another partial question on here, and he's asking, how do you explain ghost trains? Trains were never alive. This really bothers me.
That's actually a really good question, because there's a team up north Saskatchewan that has actually investigated multiple locations with the whole ghost trains and things like that. The St. Louis ghost train, and they can't find an answer for it. One of the theories that they have is because, remember I said how this building has this high magnetic center? It's highly probable that the railway itself travels over multiple magnetic centers, and it's creating this anomaly of a ghost train coming down the tracks. Now, whether it is an actual train or not, that's one of their, the many theories that are out there, because the whole, let's throw ley lines out there or whatever else. As these rails are laid over these areas, they kind of create these pinch spots, and you might actually have these anomalies.
Matt, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Merle as well. We're going to go to commercial break right here on Spaced Out Radio. More of Ghosts of the Great White North with Merle and Matt Ley. We continue on the Ghost Talk all night long. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, Germs, we are clear.
Great. Great. Or the ghost trains can be a residual haunting of a traumatic event that could have happened with a train. So at 11:52 a.m. every 3 years, when that event happened, you hear that train.
Yeah.
You never know.
Could very well
Or, you know, we'll bring the rest of this topic up when we get back to the radio show. How about that?
be. Yeah, because
Okay.
well, Snakes on a UFO says ghost ships, planes, etc. You know, there's plenty more there. So I can't explain planes. I have on the other end of the spectrum theories on planes, but you know, like when it. Now, wait.
Merle Behoff in the chat room says, Merle.
I like it. Merle Behoff.
Merle. I want to hear it, Merle. Right between the eyes.
Oh, boy.
Uh-huh.
Do you like Kiss? You get a big Kiss fan? Kind of remind me of a Kiss fan.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
You sure? You kind of look like one. You remind me of a guy that sings Lick It Up. Never mind. Or I Was Made for Loving You. You look like that guy. You sing it in your truck going like this. No? Or you power bass, like air bass it.
No.
Playing the Gene pull-offs.
No. Tavia on Twitch, this is live. We're always live. We never record. Hi, Melinda Leslie. How are you?
Where do you want to take the next half hour there, Dave?
We're gonna continue on with like inanimate objects re-showing themselves.
Okay.
And Bomber is wondering, are we going to Merle for Merle? Absolutely we are.
Got a Merle for Merle. Only. Dave, do you like cheese?
No.
No.
Tavia, must be new. How exactly does one go about merling? You just merle. It comes from the diaphragm. Merle. Merle.
You can join the herd.
Join the herd. Lick It Up is a fantastic tune. Thanks, Black Rabbit. Oh, here's Duke. Merle. Mm-hmm. Look at Super Duke there. That probably hurt his voice typing that.
I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Bomber giving you a Merle. There you go.
Merle. So many Merles, so little time.
Tavia. That's the thing you decide to home in on? It's Merle's show. It's what we're doing. She knew. She doesn't understand us yet. It's the Canadian connection. Mm-hmm. Matt, have you got your Canadian citizenship yet?
No, I'm still a PR.
Would you hurry up, please?
We probably should just do an episode on that one altogether.
Hi, Night Gazer. How you doing, buddy? Good to have you back. You know what's funny, Melinda, is I have 3 pairs of Sasquatch socks. 2 of the pairs are no longer because 2 of the socks have walked away, disappeared, just like Sasquatch.
Merlinda?
Merlinda. Thank you to Snakes and Ozzy Ange and Ed for the super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So keep it on up, people. We appreciate that. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, ring the bell so you know when we are going to be on live. And thank you to all the veterans out there listening to the show. Ange in Australia gives a Merle. Hey,
Merle.
There's Cat the Kit. How are you, gorgeous? Here we go. Second half of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Ghost of the Great White North happens right here on Spaced Out Radio once a month, where me and my good buddy Merle from the Paranormal Road Trippers in Vancouver come in, hang out, and talk everything paranormal. Tonight, from the Mudutu Effect, we have Matt Ley. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Good to be back.
Thanks,
All right.
Dave.
I want to get into inanimate objects. How are they hauntings? All right, whether it's airplanes, trains, ships, horses and buggies. The horses you can understand, but the buggies. How are these inanimate objects being seen in a paranormal, ghostly form?
Merle, you want to go first?
Sure. It's what I said. I was talking about it on the break. I chalk it up sometimes possibly to a residual haunting. Like you take a ghost train. That ghost train goes off at 11:57 p.m. every third Tuesday of November. But in 1908, on that third Tuesday at 11:57, it derailed and killed a ton of people. So you have that energy of that train every third Wednesday at 11:57, and then comes the urban legend of like, oh, if you go by those mountains over there, this time you're going to hear the train screaming, the train horn or whatever they call it, going off, and then it just all of a sudden goes off in the distance. I think inanimate objects aren't haunted. I think its energy imprint is left. Now,
I'm gonna bounce off of that. I'm actually going to answer some of that with a question. So one of the concepts here, would it be possible because of a collective thought? Everybody knows that a train derailment has happened there. Everybody knows that this happens. There is an anomaly that shows up, but because of the collective thought, is it possible that people are manifesting this imagery of a train?
the mass energy effect.
Right. I think my personal opinion is that sometimes that's the case. Over time, we hear the stories of I'm not disputing what you're saying because I think that's actually very true. But I think in some of these cases, as time goes on and we're told over and over and over, at this such and such time, this shows up, this ship shows up, this, whatever, all these different things show up, that it does show up because the mass effect, the collective consciousness. However, to go with what Dave is saying, let's say like it's a random object. You did not know that this was going to happen, and you all of a sudden afterwards you find out about it. It still could be a possibility, the mass effect, from projected energy. And once again, this is another theory out there and so that everybody's aware, this is where when everybody is told, well, let's use that train scenario, 11:57, it happens every, other week, or a specific location, there is a train being seen. Even if you don't know about it, there's a lot of other people that do. And because of that focus of that energy, it's going to happen. There's also that other aspect is there is an anomaly from the train, accident. And because of that, you have that catalyst sitting there. Now you have this grouping of thoughts manifesting this actual train. And then, of course, we also got pareidolia, where you turn, a type of pareidolia where you see the anomaly. It could have been probably no bigger than a person, but it's got to be a train coming. So I'm leaning more toward an inanimate object, as many people know, more people know about it as a manifestation of thought. Whether you know about it or not doesn't matter.
I'm going to throw another thing out at you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Get your opinion. What if we are actually not investigating ghost trains, but actually hearing from different dimensions or seeing into different dimensions?
You saw the level of excitement, because that's where I like to research more. And oh my gosh, I could go on. We honestly do not have enough time from one of my multidimensional rants and time bends, and because we have been able to measure time distortions at some of these events that we couldn't explain. So with that being said, let's say like the train, it could be a fold in time, or it could be the train, in another dimension, as per se. But we have to take in consideration, well, our visual patterns and everything that we do for time and everything else is based on this physical world. So not knowing what the formula would be on another platform, dimension, type concept, could appear as distorted or things along those lines. That's why I think people get confused with the whole demon on the location. It could be an actual 3-foot tall person standing in front of you, and because of the distortion of time variables and our vision variables, could appear as a 8-foot tall demon in a doorway. Yes, I quoted a certain show. But when you're looking at different things, or let's say like nobody knows about this train that comes by, you are just walking down the tracks going to another investigation, all of a sudden there's a train on the tracks. In that aspect, I would lean more toward time distortion. Is that train there in the future or in the past, or is it from another dimension? Is that was the situation of occurrences leaning toward to have these bends in time and space. But I 100% agree with that concept. Like I said, I could keep going because that's one of my I base a lot of my theories on is dimensional, multidimensional, time distortions. And it's funny, in all the old century texts, a lot of them actually repeat over and over and over. Time does not exist. But not in the aspect of what we know in this physical world. So I still lean toward those before I lean toward ghost.
Merle, how about you?
Merle doesn't specialize in that stuff at all, and I have nothing. I can't say anything educated on that. I'll be honest with you. The whole, I gave my answer with the residual. That's what I think it could be, but I would like to explore the stuff that Matt was talking about as well.
Well, I think so. It still goes back to the fact that inanimate objects should not be in the paranormal world. technically speaking. Now, I can understand the residual energy of people touching trains or airplanes or World War II bombers. I mean, there's towns in Germany and in Great Britain who literally still hear the bombers flying over at certain points during every year. I mean, we see a lot of this. The ghost ships of Halifax in Nova Scotia or in Cape Cod in the United States. We see this happening. I just think it's a real glimpse into the past that, it's kind of like looking into a fog, and that fog on the other end has something there.
Yeah, I agree. Because I haven't experienced it personally, but there's several different other reports where people would see scenarios and was able to look it up and find out it's something that happened in the past, or by definition that would be a residual, but there was nothing no triggering effect other than their mindset. So is it a residual haunting? Are you glimpsing into the past, or are you actually seeing a playback? The veil's thin no matter which path you choose to look at. So, but as far as to identify whether or not, I mean, it's like the whole gravitational waves theory. It was a theory until now it's proven. So there's a lot of theories out there. It took years to come up as a proof. And that was Einstein.
Merle, go ahead.
Repeat the sound glitch, Dave. I didn't hear the last probably 4 seconds.
I was going to say, your turn to ask a question.
What is your... See, that I like what we're talking about here with the multi-dimensions and the residual. With your theories, how would you go with intelligent hauntings? Do you think it's a ghost? Or do you think it could be put off by our energy?
Well, for an actual haunting, let's say like that, I think it's a case that we can feed the energy into the haunting, making, as I was saying before, with the, our emotions and, our anticipations, we can feed that actual haunting. But to flip on the backside of that, when we was talking about the multidimensional, and I'm going to propose this to you as a what if.
Okay.
So multiple teams have gone in, they've gotten no hits. Everybody's heard rumors of anomalies happening at this location, but the right time, right place happens. And we spoke about this analogy. It's like fishing. You throw the hook in the same place and never get anything. However, what if it's not actually a haunting? What if it's a window? So what if you're actually, when you do hit that right spot, it's actually a multidimensional being? Now, under a lot of concepts and theories out there about parallel universes and whatever else, what if this isn't a deceased person? This is an intelligent person from another dimension. I just literally thought that up. Yeah, so
no, it's. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying with that. But to you, what makes it deem paranormal for you versus multi-dimensions or any sort of thing like that? What would make you put your stamp of approval on saying, bro, you got a ghost?
Well, because paranormal, the word itself, is a blanket term.
Sure.
It doesn't. The word paranormal, by definition, is not ghosts. So it's anything that's outside the realm of the norm. To go along, it's but to say that paranormal, if I'm going to deem this location as a paranormal, it means I really can explain it as a normal occurrence. So now I have to come up with all these different theories. Is it a ghost? Is it multidimensional? Is it self-generated by my own thoughts? Is it, because we heard all the stories and now the team's going in, now we're manifesting this? There's so many different variables there. So to say by definition, yes, it would be paranormal. But to say it's a haunting, I would not ever say that, because I would have too many variables to say otherwise. But to propose that question, I'm going to bounce a question back to you. On every paranormal, I'm using that blanket term again, how many would you say were actually, that you were convinced, when I know you do a lot of investigations on site, but if you were to turn around and say, it is absolutely a ghost, or have you actually had a location that you said, I don't think this is a ghost, but I can't explain it?
All the time. If I can't explain something, or if I feel something's there, but I can't determine what it is, I'll straight up say that to the owner, the property manager, or whatever. For me to say I feel like there's a ghost or a haunting is when, this is just me, where I can present evidence. Like, say I got a couple EVP clips or anomalies in the atmospheric temperatures or anything to do with the atmosphere. I'll share that stuff with them. But there's been times where I've gone to very popular locations, like what's one I can use? Like Golden in the States in Oregon. There's a church that demon vampires lurk in the shadows outside of the church, and no, that's literally one of the accounts there. And the only demon vampire I saw were the bats in the ceiling. And I'm confident enough to say I don't feel there's anything there, because I didn't feel it, I didn't see it. But who's to say if you went there, or Dave went there, or the app guy went there, you won't find something. Right?
Yeah. If you're scared enough, and once again, if you're an enthusiast, you're always gonna find something. It just depends on how you want to label it. But
I try to go in very non-partial. Even if I'm excited as like a kid on Christmas, I try to go in as non-partial as possible to everyone.
I think I've told you this theory, and this is not mine. This is a theory that somebody gave me. And this happened when the whole gravitational waves. And so a few years back when they, found it. And I love this theory. And it's one that just keeps the gears going in my head. Because one thing I pride myself over is that no matter how crazy the theory is, I invite them. Because there may be that one piece in there that's legitimately enough to go chasing after something. Or you may spark the imagination to go, maybe I need to look back at some old evidence. So this theory was, when gravitational waves came out, because there's slight time distortions, I got, Matt, what if when I put my keys down, and we've all done this at one point in time, you put your keys down, and then you turn around to do something, you look back and the keys are in a different location. Now most people start screaming ghost or whatever else. So this is from an elderly lady, and she was asking me, what if it's when a gravitational wave passes through the Earth, and that's a time distortion? So technically you did move them, but you just don't remember it. And that few feet that the keys were moved, now you're wondering, what is this paranormal event? So I don't know if she's right or wrong, but I love that thought process. Question everything. Don't just say it's a ghost because I saw it on TV.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you with that. That makes perfect sense to me.
But that's one of the things we're priding ourselves on around here is encouraging people to come up with theories, no matter how crazy it may be. The latest theory. Yes.
All right, let's ask the questions for our radio audience. Bim Jim is asking, do you agree that we need a glossary of terms for the paranormal?
And I wholeheartedly agree. I wrote a book a couple of years ago, and in the back I put a generalized glossary, because I got tired of these TV shows saying, this is this and this is that. And when you heard the term Faraday cage, and I actually watched a show one time where they said, "Oh, you're in a Faraday cage. This is bad. This is what's causing all your activity." Well, look it up. It's a grounding cage, basically. It's a shielding cage. Anyway. So yes, I put it as like a small glossary, but I think there should be a non-biased glossary of terms. Where it's not someone that's uber religious or uber real scientific. It's because these terms get skewed between the translation of TV shows. I'm actually holding paranormal classes here in September, and somebody nicknamed it Paranormal Boot Camp because it's not what you see on TV shows. And we're going to be going through like these terms and things like that, the real world of what these terms are. And then we're going to do a real world with some mock investigation, but you got people don't realize you're sitting in the dark. You're by yourself. You're in dusty environments. You're dealing with wind and elements, and here in Saskatchewan, minus 40, minus 60 in the wind. So yeah, you have all these factors that play a part. Did you carry batteries? Is this EVP recorder even going to work for me in the wind? No. These different factors need to play a part. But going back to your glossary of terms, yes, because I have heard other teams that watch only shows to get their guidebook, and they're using the wrong terminologies altogether, completely off the map. But Merle, what do you think?
I think I 100% agree. I think there should be a glossary. I use non-partial terms so people don't get their nose out of joint. I just think it's terms that we all use from beginner, intermediate to advanced, where we all speak the same jive. I think it would help the field more. Now,
one of the questions that just came up is very important. How can we have terms? We don't have any answers. It's a conundrum. Terms and relating only what I'm talking about, and I think Merle agrees, is that terms are more that we use as a reference, like milligauss or, like I said before, Faraday cage. Things along how we measure different things with hertz and frames per second.
EVP classes, everything.
Yeah, those basic terms. Now, as far as having answers, 100% agree. We don't have answers. There's no experts in this field. Anybody that says, I'm an expert, you need to just back away slowly. Because all we can do is relay our experiences. And the purpose of, I'm going to use this term loosely, legitimate teams, is to educate the public so that they can come up with new theories. And because sometimes we get landlocked. We get stuck in the groove of what we're used to seeing. And when somebody comes in with a fresh set of eyes, it's amazing. But we do not have answers. None of us are 100%. None of us are experts. None of us are scientists. None of us have, that's an absolute truth. But we do have terms that we use. And I do think there needs to be a glossary of these translations that we always ramble off about.
I agree.
Gentlemen, we got about 40 seconds left before we have to go to break here at the top of the hour. And we're going to have Merle and Matt Ley from the Mudutu Effect sticking around for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to take more paranormal questions from our audience members in our YouTube channel who are sitting here hanging on out. And if you're on Twitter, we'll do that as well at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Merle is part of the Paranormal Road Trippers. Yeah, he joins me once a month here on Spaced Out Radio to talk about everything ghostly and spooky and haunting on Ghosts of the Great White North because, that's what he does for a living. Chases ghosts, looks for spirits. There is not a closet this man will not open. and the Mudutu Effects, Matt Ley from beautiful province of Saskatchewan. Wave to everybody, Matt. It's flat out there. You'll see us all. More Spaced Out Radio with Hour 3 next. All right, gents, we're clear. I'll be right back.
I know. I got to get a refill on coffee. The IV is run dry.
I'll be right back, too.
Hold the fort, Merle. Hold the fort.
Holding. Merle's back. No one rapped me out today for not holding down the fort for a minute. Where do you guys want to take this last half hour? Start typing in your questions. Good ones. Drama.
I really need a coffee maker on this floor. Too old
Did you
for
get
that.
steps in?
Jeez. So for the last half hour.
Enjoying the show?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Enjoy listening to your theories.
Space time. I'm really enjoying some of these comments. I've been trying to not do the squirrel thing. So when I'm doing my show, I'm horrible about reading comments and not talking. Because well, even when I did the live feed broadcast, that I normally do, somebody piped up with a theory, and I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And then, but just because I may think of that in the moment, doesn't mean the gears aren't going. I've got to, and then all of a sudden, oh, they were on track. So, people who can hear.
So when do your classes start?
September 12th. And it'll be a 3-parter. So, and we don't charge for the classes, so it's strictly donation.
That's good.
All right, boys. I'm back.
Okay, bye.
See ya.
Dave's back, everyone. Dave's back.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do for the next half hour, Dave? Let's get drama.
No.
Fun. Let our hair down.
You don't have any hair.
Got lots of hair.
No.
It's actually really long. I need to get my lettuce chopped.
You look like an eraser on an HB2 pencil.
Yeah, I do.
Apollo wants to... We'll get to Apollo stuff when we come back here.
Yeah, I was just reading that.
I had a good conversation with Ron Munyak today about that. The Ukrainian watermelon, Dave.
The Ukrainian watermelon. We love the...
That guy's on our way.
I know the Ukrainian watermelon is listening right now because I could feel him.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
He
could smell him, all the garlic.
Absolutely. Today he had pork chops for dinner in Bannock.
Yep. With at least 4 cloves of raw garlic. Because that's what Ukrainians do.
I respect that guy. Him and I are on the same wavelengths too, with a lot of theories and things about the paranormal.
Little Ronnie Montiak is a good guy.
He is.
Mm-hmm. One of the best out there, let's be honest.
Matt here,
yeah.
Ron, and Brandon Alves are the 3 guys that I wavelength. Love it. Could talk all day, every day about all this stuff.
Uh-huh. Merle the Eraser Head, according to FAP. We got 10 seconds. Thank you to Snakes, Ange, and Ed for the super chats tonight. Really appreciate the love and support. Here we go, everyone.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hesternopothia. Hesternopothia is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, it's Ghosts of the Great White North. We got Merle here from the Paranormal Road Trippers, my good buddy who joins us once a month to talk about all things paranormal, and joining us from the Mudutu Effect in the beautiful province of Saskatchewan is Matt Ley. Gentlemen, welcome back.
We're back.
All right.
Thanks, Dave.
Apollo 11 in our chat room says, can you guys discuss any dangers you feel there are opening up yourself to communicate and interact with spirits?
Well, I know you have a...
Yeah. Go for it, Matt.
Oh, no, I was saying, you got it. I like your concept, and then I'm going to bounce off the back of it. So,
I feel vulnerability. Opening yourself up to negative spirits. I think you can use the analogy of a telephone. You pick up a phone without a caller ID, you really don't know who you're talking to. So I think when you're going into a paranormal investigation, you need to be very cautious in who you're trying to talk to and what you're trying to talk to and how you're trying to talk to them. You can use, depends on your beliefs, on what you feel protects you. If you think this SD card protects you, that is your... I'm using anything, what I have in my hand. If you really believe in something as protection, it's going to help you. But you got to be careful with what you're dealing with. There's a lot of negative things out there.
Mm-hmm. And to bounce off the back of that, because we're on the same page on this subject, let's remove the word spirits out of it. because no matter what you do, it's the same scenario. So this building that we have here is heavily warded in the main hall. I always let everybody walk around with a UV light, and they can see the sigils in the walls and everything else, because we never know who's going to be coming to the door. We don't want that negative energy coming to the door. Nope. And it's the same concept when you're talking to somebody. Do you ever get that gut feeling that I don't really want to be in the same room with this person? Always go with your gut. And but to go with that same concept, we're walking into a dark room. We can't see. We don't know what we're dealing with. Let's remove all the biases. And at the end of the day, you don't know who you're talking to. Mm-hmm. And, whether it be a spirit, a ghost, they could have been the worst person when they were alive. But at the end of the day, you don't know who you're talking to. How do you protect yourself? Well, number one, it starts up here. Because nothing is going to do anything for you until you believe it. So, and my greatest challenge that I've been posting, because there's so many people out there that will try to sell you items that says, if you drink this, it will do everything for you. Okay, well, that's got to start up here. So, people that tell you, you can only burn this, you can only do this, you can only do that. No, you have to decide what you feel, and to go back, if you believe in that SD card or whatever else. So my challenge, and it probably shouldn't do it because it's considered a liability, but I make candles in our shop, and one of the candles I make is protection. Now, does that mean that candle is going to protect you everywhere? No. But my challenge is, I've been telling everybody, go ahead and light it, walk out in traffic, and tell me what happens. Because all it does is it has the oils and the blends in it that actually are traditionally for protection. The mindset is what actually does it. So I'm just bouncing it right off the back. That's why I wanted to piggyback on top of Merle about that, because it is a conversation that's always brought up. What if you go in and you get possessed? What if you get this? What if you get that? That starts up here. If you're going to a location thinking that's going to happen, guess what? So, and once again, before I go into a location, I respectfully burn some incense, say thank you for allowing me to be there. Some people take ritual baths. Some people, do meditation before they go to get their mindset. These are different ways to protect yourself. Now, to be told that you can only, I'm going to pick on it. You can only burn sage. I got to say it. That's culturally acceptable to different regions. I could tell you vervain has the same properties. So I could tell you witch's grass has the same properties. I could tell you juniper berries has the same properties. Clove. These all have the same properties. It's what you personally believe would help you. Mm-hmm. Okay, sorry, I got another one of those rants.
No, it's true, though. Everything you're saying is true.
All right, let's go to Minister Elaine here. Have you had dealings with people who are astral projecting and mistaken them for a ghost?
And that goes back to another question that came up about people remote viewing being mistaken as ghosts. And so I'm going to answer that as yes, because I do a lot of astral traveling myself. I'm really heavy into consciousness development. And I'm going to speak to a friend of mine in Toronto, and I just literally left their location, and I was back in home in Georgia. The past. Anyway, so I'm back at home in Georgia, and I'm doing my work, and their son got up to get a glass of water and thought they saw me walking down the hallway. So I'm going to say yes to that, because I was still attached to the location, and when I'm doing my astral traveling, you always go to where your comfort zone is. And So yes, I think that is a high probability, is that someone doing astral traveling or even dream working, not even aware of it, because sometimes people do that. That would be a case of an apparition showing up in a location. Now, the remote viewing that was brought up, I don't know. I've never actually seen, but based on the remote viewing handbook, it would be a possibility, I think, which I have read. What's your thought?
I've never experienced it, but I know people that astral travel. Even one, he lives in the States and he's never been to my house. And I got him to astral travel to my place because I felt that I had an attachment from my house. Sorry, from an investigation. And he described my house, the inside of my house to a T, so it just wasn't from Google Maps, along with some of my possessions. And he's like, yeah, you do have something in your house. And he got rid of it. So that'd be the closest for me.
Yeah, I think any type of projection of energy, whether through thought, or astrally, in any of the four worlds that are mentioned, through either Kabbalistic or different things along those lines, are a possibility of manipulating an environment to someone unsuspecting. So, my thoughts.
How do you combat that?
I wouldn't combat it. I'd be playing practical jokes on him, Dave. Are you kidding me? No. No, I don't think it's a combating situation, because if a person is doing that, that means that they're in a comfort zone. They are attached to that location. Like in the case when I did the astral traveling. Yes, I got the phone call the next morning, but it's I don't think it's a case of combating. However, if somebody's doing it in a negative manner, then there's people that you can call for that.
All right, I've got a few people out there who would love to hear, Matt, your spookiest story.
My spookiest story. Holy crap, that's a really hard one.
Or your strangest one.
But see, that goes along with the UFOs, so I don't want to go into that realm. So I'm just going to pick on
true ghost story.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to lean toward. Well, actually, no. I'm going to use the location here in Regina, and which is the German club. And the first time we investigated, literally, it was 4:00 in the morning, and I'm like, I am so bored. It is nothing going on here. And then after upon evidence review, it turns out it was ridiculously active. So we went back again, and we changed our approach and did real-time review. Every time a team went in, they came out, dumped, and while they dumped the data, somebody's looking through the information so that we didn't miss anything. So I'm walking in through the door, and I decided we wanted to send one person in solo. Now, mind you, when I say solo, we have remote cameras everywhere, so it's technically not solo. So I go in, and it's got the street side door, and then behind that is these huge steel doors. But when I get in through the steel doors, I'm like, well, this is my casual conversation that I always make. Hi, my name's Matt. Just hanging out with you. I can't really see because it's dark. Can you just let me know that you're here so I don't bump into you or anything like that? I'm doing that. Nothing happened. Throughout the entire time I was in there, nothing happened. So I come back out and I said, well, that was boring. Here's the footage. Don't try not to fall asleep type scenario. So I gave it to the guy, and he turns around and tells me, he says, did you hear anything in there? And I'm like, no, it was dead. I didn't hear anything. He says, well, listen. And he turns up the volume. When I said, hi, my name's Matt. I'm here, just let me know you're here. And you hear this plain as day, echoing in this big giant hall, this girl giggling. Now, very loudly, like she's pretty close by. I'm going to jump forward about 6 months, and we're doing we're showing the German club all the footage that we got, where they had a big fundraiser dinner and whatnot. And so after everything's said and done, I'm standing off to the side, and a woman comes up to me and says, "Hey, did you get any footage of a blonde-haired girl, probably in her 20s?" And I said, "No, we got footage of someone in the kitchen." She goes, "Oh, well, she died on stage, and she's well known for her bubbly attitude. And even when she got in trouble, when she used to dance, because they did the whole lederhosen thing and everything up on stage, and every time she was dancing, every time she messed up, she would giggle." And I'm like, "Excuse me?" Yeah, it was just every time somebody would call her name, she'd giggle. She'd mess up, she'd giggle. That was her catchphrase for everything. And of course, me and the team lead are staring at each other, going, "Can we get you to listen to something?" And that was her. But it was one of those things we had already passed off as an anomaly. But of course, it sent shivers down our spines, because you love it also when those pieces come together. So that was probably one of my favorites.
How about for you, Merle?
Du bist eine Frau.
What?
Speaking German. You're in the German club. Du bist eine Frau. Yeah? Nein?
Okay.
The German.
Sorry.
Merle.
German club.
Merle, your weirdest story.
Oh, my weirdest story. I said it tonight. I didn't finish my story. I was in the brothel with the two investigators getting touched on the face. But for me, I like to try to maintain as most control as I have on an investigation. I don't like my surroundings to be messed with. But you're gonna laugh at this. But like when that happened to the girls, I challenged something to come out and touch me as well. And I get touched on my lower back, like kind of like almost like a slap, and then the hand was placed there. And old Merle would run out of the building, but old Merle couldn't run out of the building because we went in through the floor. But that was weird for me because I don't understand how that's another theory Matt could talk about. Why do we have feeling like when something touches us, like a spirit touches us? Why do you think that happens?
Oh, right now I thought you were telling a story. No,
that was my story. It was really weird to have so much energy happen where the two girls got touched on the face and then I got touched on my lower back, all within probably 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm. I have a couple of different theories, and one of them is when we feel these touches or whatnot. Yes, it's actually physically happening in this time frame, whatever. Then there's also the concept of going back to the whole multidimensional theory where people are like, "I got scratched," because we have no idea of what frequency they're operating at, how are they communicating to us. A simple touch could end up as a scratch on us. And, you've always heard about the 3 scratches. It's a demon. It's not always the case. So whenever we feel these things, so it could be those. And then it could also be the brain trigger. Have you ever, for example, have you seen the rubber hand for the brain trick where they turn around and you put the rubber hand out, make you think it's your hand, and they drive a nail into it or stick it with a needle or things like that. And your brain tells you that that's happening. Well, it's the same concept. You feel these things. It may be a single point, but your brain is got to finish the conversation, basically. So you would feel the touch. Now, seeing the handprint and different things like that, that's a completely different scenario. But, I mean, feeling the touch and you don't see any physical, I lean toward that as energy. Your brain senses something there. So it's got to translate, just like pareidolia. It's got to translate it into something that you can understand. Just my thoughts.
Absolutely, absolutely. Merle, go ahead.
I was going to say just another weird story that, if you want, is when I was investigating an old historic town, I actually heard ghost pigs hearing goes. I'm just bringing this up because it ties into what we were talking about earlier, the residual versus the multi-dimensions. I was doing an EVP session walking down the middle of a road in a ghost town, and I was by the old butcher shop, and upon playback I heard actual, like I was at a pig farm, like all the pig noises. It was really awkward. Or not awkward, sorry, it was very weird. Never had animal EVPs before.
I have had an animal EVP. Well, it wasn't an EVP. It was actually, I was in the middle of just, okay. Every time we get equipment, I want to try to debunk the equipment first. And I'm really bad about that. And when we first got the SB11 and we're doing the ghost box, it's scanning the frequencies forward and back and going all over the place. And all of a sudden you heard, plain as day, a meow, like from a cat. And I'm like, well, okay, that makes zero sense. And then it came through again. Well, that was one of the reported accounts that they didn't tell us about, was that there was this black cat roaming around the building. So that was actually the first time we had ever caught anything like that on an SB11. Do you want to tell another story on the SB11? I'm very skeptical about the SB11. I could go on long rants about the SB11. Why? I like it and I don't like it. I like the theory behind it, but
I sold my SB11. I use my SB7. So if anyone doesn't know the SB7, SB11 is, it's a spirit box.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the ones they use on Ghost Adventures. But what I did with my SB7 is I took the actual antenna out. So it's just white noise.
Nice.
Which had a few blips on it, but I wouldn't call it Class A evidence.
Yeah. The only hard evidence I ever got from an SB11 was I was at an old church. And I'll make it real quick. We were at an old church, and my wife and I are up on the second floor, and it kept getting, of course, you're listening to all that for a while. And then all of a sudden, it starts playing a song, a full piano song.
Wow. Every
single note. And which, for those that don't know, the SB11 is scanning. Well, we had it set at 250, so every 250 milliseconds it's jumping a frequency. But it's playing a full piano song. We found out later on the room that we were in was the old piano room. So it's where they used to come in and play the music and have classes and whatnot. So, yes, I like that. Those type of correlations I love. The rest of them, I can go, you heard what? I mean, but yeah, there's very few times I've gotten good hard evidence from SB11.
Gentlemen, we have about 90 seconds left in tonight's show. And Matt, I want you to take time to let everybody know where they can find the Mudutu Effect.
Oh, we're all over the place. Look on the bathroom stall. No, you can Mudutu.ca. You can look on Facebook, facebook.com, House Mudutu. It's probably the best starting places, and from there you can go to YouTube and everywhere else.
Wonderful. And Merle, where can everybody find the Paranormal Road Trippers?
The Paranormal Road Trippers on Instagram. We're very active on that daily. And on the Paranormal Road Trippers on Facebook. And Paranormal Road Trippers on YouTube.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Gentlemen, it's been a slice talking some paranormal with you guys tonight. Really do appreciate you guys taking the time once again for our audience. Matt, it's been a few months since we had you on the show, but
I'm excited to have him on.
Yeah, but much love to have you and your beautiful wife, Allison, very much in the field of the paranormal, doing great work. Thank you for coming on and being a friend of this show.
Thank you.
And Merle, just shaking my head. Just shaking my head. One final question for you, Merle. From Fap, he's wondering what size ball cap you wear.
Is he sending me one, or what?
No, he just wants to see how big your head is.
Large and in charge.
I would say triple XL and in charge. Merle, everybody, and Matt Ley. Coming up next, John Hudson brings us the unbiased UFO report. We got the news wire and the thought of the day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues after this. Good job, boys.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Merle, when are you coming up?
We'll see. I'm going to Barkerville with my daughter in August, so we may or may not see you then.
May or may not now.
You may. You may.
Wow. Just drive on by, buddy. Just drive on by.
No, it depends. It depends if I stay an extra night in Barkerville. It's entirely up to my kid.
Can't stop by for 8 minutes to say hello. Yep.
We may stop by for a coffee. See Uncle Davey.
I've been trying to get him to come this way. So,
Yeah, Merle likes to do everything without me.
Yeah.
Everything.
So
I'm going to the Bailey House on Saturday. Want to come?
Nope.
Why?
Why? Because I need more than 2 days to prepare.
Oh.
All right, boys.
All right.
Run. Take care.
All right.
Later,
All right.
guys.
Thanks, Matt.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Oh, I accidentally booted my other guy. John Hudson, ring back. Ring back, buddy. There he is. That Stetson's looking good, man. Can you hear me okay? You want to talk so I can hear you? You're freezing up on me a little bit.
Yep.
Okay,
Actually,
there.
let me cut something over real quick. Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now.
Yeah?
Yep. We're good.
Cool. Awesome. It was a trip. I forgot my earpiece was still on my phone, but they were actually in sync, so I couldn't tell.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. All right, I got to get this going here. Tomorrow night on the show, Varla Ventura and Our Cryptid World. Happy to have her here. What woo pedal? I don't have a woo pedal in here.
Oh, cool shirt, Dave.
Thanks, buddy. Says peace, bitches.
Oh, I didn't see the bottom. That's good.
Uh-huh. Top corner of the right screen, like right there. It's not a woo pedal. Or right there. What would that be? Those are tarot cards. And if you're looking right here, that is a internet box. Merle! Oh, this pedal here. Yeah, that's just a woo box. I got you. It's clip art.
Saw this woman do this great post where her daughter started photocopying socks and just putting the photocopied things around the house so her mom thinks that she's leaving her socks around, but then when she goes to pick it up, it's just a piece of paper.
All right, we got 1 minute here. What's your theme song again? Oh, yeah. There it is. All right, we got 9 seconds. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Now it is time to bring in John Hudson once again for the unbiased UFO report. Yes, John scours the internet, not skewers, scours the internet, looking for all the UFO news that he can come up with and find for us. And of course, we got some more entertaining news from John tonight in the world of the woo. John, welcome back to the show, bud.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I occasionally do get skewered while out there, but
Yes.
but yeah, not usually my side of the cat. Yeah, exactly.
I
Happy to be here. Glad, hell of a show tonight. And do you just want to do a couple quick updates, because it always drives me nuts when people talk about stories and you never hear them again. And so a little update on the Travis Walton situation we talked about on Monday.
Yes.
Yep. As if you guys are interested in the story, you can look around. Ryan Gordon has done at least one more podcast, and I believe he has another one scheduled tomorrow. So he's out there kind of telling his side of the story. And then Travis Walton is actually jumping back in, and he will be there. He will be on Fade to Black on Monday, specifically talking about this issue. And so hopefully we'll get some clarity on this case at that point.
Yeah,
I'd like to see this end soon.
Our team, just so you know, has also been in contact with Travis Walton about him coming on.
Oh, good.
So just give a quick roundabout here, about a 1 minute roundabout about what's going on here for people who may not be knowing.
Sure. Well, basically, Mike Rogers, who was part of the Travis's group, I believe he was the foreman of the group back in the day. He and Travis had a falling out at the beginning of the year. They both made it clear that they were separating, and it seemed like that would be the end of it. Then sometime after that, a gentleman by the name of Ryan Gordon came out with a recording of a conversation he had with Mike where Rogers basically said some very damaging things about the case. And Rogers originally came out and said it had been cut to make him look bad, and he didn't really say those things. But obviously, Ryan Gordon is claiming that he did say those things, and so now it's here and there. He said, she said, and it's turned into a mess. And my understanding, there's a lawsuit involved as well. So it's gotten really ugly really fast, and unfortunately, it's throwing a lot of mud on Travis's story. And so it's a challenging topic for the community.
Is Mike Walton or Mike Rogers playing both sides of the field here? Because in one end, he's saying, for 45 years, he kind of stood in Travis's shadow. Then he got upset about it because Travis is making money off of this, and old Mike is not making money off of it. And he goes on and starts this whole debate and controversy about 4 months ago. And then him and Travis kiss and make up. And now we're right back to this whole denial thing again. What is going on here?
Well, and the thing that's hard to say is is this the sort of thing where Rogers is actually changing his mind as different things occur, which it's a rather human thing to do, or is it possible that what Ryan Gordon's angle is that he's now taking his movie project from a pro Travis project to a negative Travis project, and so now he's trying to drum up press and so forth because he's trying to get his movie funded or trying to get his movie sold. We don't really know the motivations of either Ryan Gordon or Rogers.
Who is Ryan Gordon? I mean, nobody had ever heard of this guy up until the last couple of weeks.
Correct, and initially I was very confused as to how he tied into all this. He just seemed like he was a investigator that just happened to live in the area. And one of the things that came out in a recent interview he gave was that he had been actually working with Travis on the recent remake of Fire in the Sky. And I know that's a project that Travis has talked about before, and it's something he was rather excited about, and so it's quite confusing because basically Ryan said in that interview that he and Travis were still on good terms, and so it's very confusing and it's very unfortunate.
Why is everybody all of a sudden trying to bring Travis Walton down?
Oh well, because we're humans, anytime anyone is in that kind of a premier role. Where they've been sitting on a somewhat of a hill or a mountaintop for a while. Everyone likes to see them put down. The thing that troubles me about all this is that I've never met Travis in person. I've seen him talk, and I've talked to people who've met him, and he seems like one of the nicest guys in this community. And so it's really hard to see this happening.
It's turning into a real Jerry Springer type show. It really
is. Without a doubt.
It's too bad.
Without a doubt.
It's too bad.
It is.
We'll continue running on this for a while. Let's move on to story number 2, my friend. As, let me see here.
Well, there's one little change. I was going to say there was no update to the 23-minute video, but I do have one small data point.
Okay, bring
it
up.
And that is that James Fox did say in talking to on Fade to Black tonight that it is his belief that the video that he's been talking about, that he's talked about in some of his other interviews, the high quality video of the vehicle coming out of the ocean and going up into orbit, that's his understanding that that's the same video that Elizondo's been talking about. And so some of us expected that, and James Fox did confirm that today, but that's the only minor data point.
That's very interesting because that's the same video that Dr. Bob McGuire on this show has stated many a times he saw a frame of that, and that was a black triangle coming out of the water that was sent around to the intelligence community in Washington, D.C.
Yep.
and in Virginia at CIA headquarters.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see if this one comes out. It really will.
Yes.
Now, the debate continues on the UAPTF report from the DNI on, is it 17 pages, is it 19 pages, is it 70 pages, what is it here? We keep going around and around and around.
Yeah, and it's an illustration of how frustrated everyone is because everyone's just grabbing onto whatever detail they can to argue about because we're all frustrated by the lack of data. But essentially, the only kind of new tidbit that I've gotten is that I reached out to an individual who I'm not naming at this point. I'll check with him before I do so. And he was one of the ones that had reported the 70-page range for the other document. And I just checked with him my hypothesis that I mentioned before, that the 17-page was real, was an executive briefing, that the 70-something page was the full document, as Elizondo mentioned, and that went to the National Security Council, and that the 400-page one mentioned by Sheehan was actually just a mistaken identification on Sheehan's part of the OSAP 400-page report. And he did agree that essentially that seems like a reasonable hypothesis and actually lined up with, I guess, something that Richard Dolan had talked about. The only thing he said he couldn't speak to was the 400-page OSAP report because that wasn't something he was familiar with. And so I think I'm on the right track, but at this point it's still a hypothesis. And other than that, I don't know of any other new data that's come out.
All right. Sometimes John Greenwald gets some great information, but sometimes he's very staunch on it, and he doesn't go for hyperbole or anything along those lines that somebody else may have something different. Is John Greenwald in the right with this? John's from the Black Vault.
Yeah, I think this is a great example where you might have competing statements, but they may not be. You might have a case where everyone is actually right, depending on their point of view. That Greenwald is correct, that the Congress got this 17-page executive briefing of the report, which would be logical, and that what the National Security Council would have seen, due to the fact that they report directly to the president, would have been this longer 70-something page report that Elizondo said himself is how the report started. He said that the original report was in that range, and that the executive briefing would be a page reduction set of that. And so I think we have a case where essentially the people saying it was in the 70-page range were correct. There is that document. And what Greenwald said was correct as well, in that this was a summary that was given to Congress because I guess they don't want to read a 70-page document.
Yet everything else seems to be silent right now coming out of D.C.
Yes. Well, they're busy fighting over the infrastructure bill and the January 6th commission.
Interesting. Now, there was some trolling happening by Russia regarding UFOs.
Yes, this is awesome, and I apologize because this does involve two pictures, which is harder for the radio group, and I will post them on my Twitter page if anyone wants to see them. They're not hard to find if you just do a search. But essentially, the company that makes the new plane that just came out, they're just throwing them up for the YouTube crowd. And basically, they have this new plane that they've been working on called the Checkmate that they just released this week. And essentially, in the wind up before that, they took these two UFO pictures. The first is an older picture, and I apologize, I don't remember exactly what that picture's from.
Billy Meyer's yard.
I believe so, yeah. And then the second one is the infamous Batman balloon photograph. And they basically inserted a chess piece in there and gave a funny tagline, and were using this as advertising for their new plane. And so, I gotta tip my hat to them. This is the kind of clever adversary that I miss from the time of the USSR. They poked well, and it's hard to kind of come back from that. But
it was hilarious,
pretty entertaining. Oh, it was beautifully done on their part.
Yeah,
absolutely beautifully done.
Beautiful trolling by the Russians. How often are we ever going to say that on this show?
Yeah.
But that was beautiful trolling in regards to the UFO. And it's funny because, it was last year where a Russian cosmonaut came out and did a report on 5 lights, almost in a triangular shape, from the International Space Station.
Russia historically has been far more open about this topic, both internationally and inside their own borders. And so part of this is the company poking fun, and I think part of this is a cultural poke at our level of secrecy.
That's really, whoever thought of that ad?
Oh, very clever.
They need a raise. That's high quality stuff right there.
And I should note that the Debrief did an article on this. Tim McMillan wrote it, and it's worth reading if anyone wants to check it out.
All right. John, we will talk to you in a couple of days' time regarding the next round of UFO news on the Unbiased UFO Report. Always appreciate you coming in, my friend. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. You have a good evening.
Take care. Well, let's get to the news. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR News Wire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the very, very odd. All right. A man pleaded guilty to falsely sending police to Mark Herring's home because he wanted Herring's Twitter handle. Yeah, a Tennessee man died last year after being targeted by a swatting call by someone who wanted him to give up his Twitter handle. 60-year-old Mark Herring owned the Twitter handle @Tennessee. According to Newsweek, he chose the handle when Twitter was in its infancy because he loved his home state and the Tennessee Volunteers. Over the years, Herring received many offers to sell his Twitter handle, but he always refused. Sometimes a prospective buyer would get disgruntled at his refusal to sell, but on April 27, 2020, things took a deadly turn. Several of Herring's relatives began getting pizza deliveries that they had not ordered. 2 of Herring's daughters and his ex-wife got multiple pizzas, all cash on delivery. Alarmed, they began to reach out to Herring but got no response. Herring's son-in-law finally got through to Herring's live-in girlfriend. She said, "Everything is not okay. I'm in the back of a cop car. I gotta go." Police had received a call from Herring's number claiming that Herring had been killed by a woman on the property. Officers responded to the scene, guns drawn. They met Herring on his porch and demanded that he put his hands up. That's when Herring had a massive, fatal heart attack. The family soon learned that Herring had received a demand from 2 people who wanted his Twitter handle. He refused, and the people allegedly began intimidation tactics to force him to sell. Police now say that 2 minors, one from Tennessee and one from the United Kingdom, were responsible for the events of April 27, 2020, and the American minor has since turned 18 and is being charged as an adult. The alleged British co-conspirator is still a minor and will not be extradited to the United States. According to documents filed in Western Tennessee District Court, Shane Sonderman pleaded guilty in March to wire fraud, conspiracy, interstate communication of threats, false information, and hoaxes and conspiracy. According to the other charges, Sonderman had 6 other victims across the country. Only Herring had died. How sad is that? Killing a guy over his Twitter handle. Terrible. Well, these daughters are just not very nice. And the one has horrid painted-on eyebrows. At 85 years old, Anthony Tomaselli was a creature of habit. After watching Wheel of Fortune, the widowed former barber in Palm Harbor, Florida liked going to the beach to catch the sunset. He read his nightly prayers from cards in English and Italian, and before bed, he liked to drink his favorite cocktail, a vodka and Diet Coke. But in the weeks after his longtime live-in girlfriend died, his 2 daughters, Mary Beth Tomaselli, 65, and Linda Roberts, who was 64, said he seemed confused and forgetful. They wanted him to move into assisted living. He didn't want to go. The arguments between them turned out moot when Linda, a doctor's office receptionist, called 911 on the morning of March 6, 2015 to report that she and her sister had found their father dead on his couch. Given his advanced age and medical history that included bouts with cancer, Anthony's death was classified as natural until 4 years later when a man who slept with both sisters, oh, this is getting Jerry Springer-like, contacted the sheriff's office and played for them a recording of Linda's voice he had made the previous night on his phone. "I can't take it anymore. I killed my father," she told the man. "Well, we did. We did it together." The guilty pleas by Linda and Mary Beth earlier this year to second-degree murder enabled the man, who asked to remain anonymous, and Pinellas County detectives to reconstruct for people the events leading up to Anthony's asphyxiation murder. Yeah, this is horrible. Yeah, they did so, the sister said, by spiking his evening cocktail with what they thought was a lethal dose of sleeping pills, according to transcripts of their interviews with detectives. When that only made him groggy, they placed a pillow over his head that he fought off. Yeah, thanks, Dad, for the life. Really appreciate it. We're going to put a pillow over your head now. Yeah, they had a quick cremation for Dad, so the body couldn't be exhumed for further examination. And, yeah, now they're up on murder charges. They're not getting out. That's what Florida sisters do. All right, another one here. Police in England said a highway was shut down temporarily after idiots forced a farmer's gate open to allow a cow to escape. Central Motorway Police Group said officers responded along highways England workers late Tuesday when a cow wandered onto the M6 highway in Doxey. Yeah, police tweeted the cow escaped when idiots, using the word idiots, that's just not me, forced and left a farmer's gate open. Officers were able to corral the cow behind the gate, and the bovine was escorted home by police and local farmers who came to help at the scene. Many thanks to the drivers who held up as we shut down the carriageway. Your patience as we deal with these and other incidents is greatly appreciated, the police said. Isn't that nice? Moving on. Finally tonight, this is out of nightmares. A man driving in a Russian village captured a video of massive swarms of mosquitoes that formed pillars stretching from the ground to high up in the sky, looking like tornadoes. Alexei Ponomarev said that he was driving in a village in the far eastern part of the Kamchatka Krai region when the giant cloud of mosquitoes made it difficult for him to see through his windshield. I can't say how high these pillars were. It seems up to the clouds. There were many of them, both in the village itself and around. Entomologist Ludmila Lubkova said that the mosquitoes were displaying a mating behavior. Said that most insects of the horny variety were males. They don't bite humans. They are flying around checking out the chicks. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because, well, we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. What's something paranormal you've experienced? Well, let's find out. Let's get a little ghostly here. You know? Haunted history. Experience a variety of unexplained things, but the most notable recently is capturing our first ever EVP at Britannia Shipyards. A woman's voice very clearly said hello. Very nice. Angela. I captured in the bathroom of my neighbor's house a picture of something weird. Caused a lot of havoc. Well, that's enough for the Thought of the Dave. Thank you to Captain Shark. Thank you to John Hudson for the unbiased UFO report, and Merle and Matt Ley. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Ball rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thanks to everyone tuning in on YouTube, LGAB, Twitch, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us. Because together, my friends, say it with me, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. What the hell is on my arm here?